we've started with that journey from, someone having a profile on LinkedIn, yourself, you liked what they do, you reached out to them, they've sent you the CV, they followed the tips, advice that you've given us now. We're moving to the next step with you organizing the job interview for the engineer, consultant, etc. Which in our field, it tends to be now probably 2 to 3 interviews, maybe even more for some companies. How do you go about this? I mean, for yourself, do you coach people? Do you give them tips to prep them? There are things that they should do, shouldn't do, in our field, in our tech type of interviews.
Yeah, for sure. I think that what's really important during the interview phase is trying to make sure that the person going into the role feels as confident and ready for the interview as possible. I think sometimes interviews they're probably the best we've got in terms of assessing candidates, but they also do have their flaws. And there are great candidates out there that don't interview well. So my role is certainly to make sure that any candidates going into interview feel as ready and as confident as they can. So I always voice that to my clients, and I say that you want to make sure you're seeing the best version of every candidate you see. So let's have a sort of overview of what the interview is going to be. I will always ask candidates, how do you feel about interviews? How do you normally do? Do you want me to give you some tips and advice? And a lot of guys are like, no, I'm all good. I'm great at interviews. Leave me to it. Sure. And some are more like, yeah, that'd be great. Let's hear your tips.
So we have our friend, the engineer, had their interview. They are getting the offer. Now I would like a bit from the inside, a tip from the inside. If I want to negotiate the salary, so sometimes you have companies that advertise a wide range of salary, starting from, let's say, 70 up to 100 here in the UK, or maybe in the US I've seen even more, from 140 to 250, 260. I've seen such huge gaps. If I like this role, I like this company, it seems the right move for me. However, financially, I think I could do better in terms of the salary, so I stick with them because I don't want to keep moving for financial, monetary reasons. What tips do you give people to negotiate the salary the right way?
The way that I go about it as a recruiter is I actually believe that the negotiation should be done at the start of the process. So a rule that I have is that when I share a candidate's resume, I realise I keep flipping between CV and resume. That's my UK versus US side.
We have people probably watching us from all over the world.
Yeah.
That's really fine.
So whenever I share a candidate's resume, I have a rule where I don't use ranges. And this is a rule that I make pretty clear with both the candidate and the client. So if a client is willing to pay between 80 to 100 and I'm speaking to an engineer and we go through kind of what their expectations are, what their other opportunities are paying, and I'll say, look, things can always change. You might end up with 5 offers and then you're in a great position to negotiate. But let's just say, as things are today, give me a number that you would accept this role on, and I'll go through all the benefits and all the bonuses and everything. And I will try and get that agreed at the start of the process with the candidate. And then most importantly, I will go to the client and I will make them very aware that they're interviewing in line with this number right here. So what that does is it means that when we get to the end of the process, we're all on the same page. There's no surprises. There's, in my experience working in recruitment, there's nothing worse than getting to the end of a 3-4 week process and then somebody getting offered less than they expected.
Sure.
So that does come down to working with a good recruiter, I would say, because not all recruiters will have the client relationships to kind of make that point really clear, and also have the respect of the client to say, look, let's not mess about. If you're not going to offer that number at the end of the process, let's not start the process. So that's kind of my number one tip, and that means that the negotiation process is usually quite straightforward. However, there are some times when we get to the end of the process and some things have changed, whatever they may be. They might be the requirements, they might be the candidate's got lots of different offers, there might be a counter offer that he gets from his existing business, and we need to go again. My advice there is to always negotiate via the recruiter if you're working with one. The reason I say that is because I can have quite sort of direct conversations, and I can be pushy with the client, and worst case scenario, they just get a little bit annoyed at me. They think, bloody hell, Jack, he's really pushing for this one. And I can have that fight on the candidate's behalf, whilst the candidate is protected and always, seems like the angel.
Is there like certain pain points or angles that you would push for a particular client when you're negotiating for them to get more salary? Do you use things like experience, or maybe he is the right fit for you for that particular reason? Is there like things that you see as a negotiation stand for the salary?
Yeah, so it's all about understanding the market. It's all about understanding what skills exist in the market and what the going rate is for those skills. The benefit that we have at Cloud Decisions is that all of our roles are, they're different variations of cloud engineer, cloud consultant, cloud architect. And we have lots of different clients, and we've been working with lots of different clients in almost exactly the same space for years. And we know where the market trends are, and we know what people are worth. We might be working on 5 different cloud architect roles at a time. So we know if a client is underpaying for a set of skills. So that's a really key point when it comes to negotiating. How that would work from a candidate's perspective is, I would say, explore the market. When you go out and explore the market and make sure that you know what you're worth. Speak to a few different recruiters, speak to a few different businesses. It can be difficult looking at job slots because quite often the salary is not listed, or it's a wide range. But just try and understand what you're worth in the market. Speak to friends, colleagues. If you're close enough to people like that, you can ask them what they've been offered in the past, or that kind of stuff. The better insight you have into what you're worth in the market, the better you're able to negotiate, and also you would know when to negotiate and when to take the offer.